Clemson, the 6th seed out west. We joked around about it off the top of the show. Paul bought that future ticket on them way back around late November, early December. It's just sitting there burning a hole in his pocket. A team that we kind of left for dead by the side of the road, right? Just another ACC also ran. If you weren't Duke or UNC coming out of the ACC, we just kind of looked at you, Aaron, and said, yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. Probably get bounced in the first round by New Mexico. And they didn't. They take care of New Mexico. And then they take care, I don't want to say pretty easily, but handily at times. They were all over Baylor yesterday.
Yeah.
Got a little squeaky at the end. But total at 152. This will be the first game just about 10 after 7 Eastern on Thursday. Clemson, Arizona. Is there a chance here for Clemson to continue this magical run that they've started? We know they can shoot. We know they can score. And Arizona's defense, not always the tightest.
Yeah, so Arizona ranks in the top 10 in both adjusted offense and defense, according to Bart Torvik and Ken Palm. I think for Clemson, this is going to be a little bit of a tougher test defensively compared to what they witnessed against Baylor. But I'm simply going to be on Clemson for Paul, and also because I have been pounding the table to fade Arizona. I went to Arizona State, so it's sort of sacrilege to like the Wildcats, and I would love to see them lose, but at least not cover the spread if they don't lose. San Diego State, they're for real. I mean, they're doing it in the tournament 2 years in a row. And then for UConn, like, can they run it back and just crush teams all the way to the championship game again? Or are they going to trip up at some point? So for me, I really, at plus 9.5, would maybe look at the San Diego State side. But so early in the week, I don't know. I have questions about both sides, Paul.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm laying it with UConn, but I'm not getting in front of that train either. I mean, there's been a little bit of a buy down from 10 to 9.5. Chris, you mentioned it. San Diego State shot 57% against Yale, 48% from 3 with high volume too. That is so far from normal for them. They're 208th in effective field goal percentage in the country, 283rd in 3-point shooting. Like, they're going to have a Yale performance, I think, to hang in this game. Doesn't mean I'm laying the 9.5, but I'm not going to try and, step in front of UConn right now.
Yeah, that total is because I could see San Diego. UConn plays whatever. They're chameleons, right? Like, they play whatever style they have to in order to win the game. And I could see UConn say, oh, okay, you want to slow this thing down, like 265th in pace or whatever San Diego State is. That's fine. We'll slow it down. That's fine. We'll beat you 70-55. We're okay with that. And then they'll flip it around and say, play Illinois in the regional final. That's just a guess. But, we'll beat you 95-88. That's fine too. We can do that. That's the thing with UConn, and brings us back around to that conversation we've been having since, a week ago now, of how, Aaron, we decide the way things are going to go in this tournament. Do you play offense? And we'll get into that in the final game of the Thursday slate when we look at Iowa State, Illinois. Or do you play defense? Or do you look for balance? This is starting to get to the point where if there's a team that's well balanced, I'm going to take the balance over one side or the other. And San Diego State's a defense first team. I don't doubt for a second that UConn can out defend them.
So that's really the case for a lot of these games, because Alabama, Illinois, they don't like defense either. So are they going to have to step it up? Or at the end of the day, because they're so lopsided and so good at shooting, if they're hot, maybe it doesn't matter as much. I think it was Isaac Trotter, when we asked him this about a month ago, he was like, you just need a couple stops here and there. Like, if you're so much better offensively, he was telling us he thinks it'll be okay this year because there's so many teams that are just so good offensively. But this is it. Like, it's coming down to this round, right? Where we're really going to see who is going to win these games, or what style, or maybe it doesn't matter, and we're going to see the more balanced teams, or defense wins championships. But you're going to have to pick now with some of these matchups.
I love what they did with this bracket, because you've got, the Midwest Regional is basically the can't trust these teams in March. Regional, like you've got Gonzaga, you've got Purdue, you've got Tennessee, and you've got Creighton, who's been to the Sweet 16 now 3 times in 4 years, but can't get over that hump and get to the Final Four. Tennessee never been to a Final Four. Purdue, they always choke in March, and then Gonzaga is everybody's favorite. Well, they can't win the big one. They can't win it all. So I love that you've got those 4 teams. One of those 4 teams is going to make everybody eat their words. And they all looked really good in the first weekend of the tournament. I mean, Purdue, I think they won by 39 yesterday, which is the 4th highest win total of any team in the history of the tournament in the second round. So they, Zach Edey left the game with like 12 and a half minutes to go to a standing ovation. He put up a stat line in his first 2 rounds that only Lou Alcindor at UCLA had put up. He was tremendous. Gonzaga beat the absolute brakes off of Kansas in round 2. They've looked really, really good for the last month and a half. Tennessee, I thought looked fantastic. They had that kind of grinded out win over Texas where they didn't shoot the ball well and Dalton Knecht didn't play great, but they did just enough down the stretch for Rick Barnes to beat his old team. And then, Creighton looked really, really good as well. Barnes, I think this is what Tennessee fans want to see. It's cool that they've been to a couple of Sweet 16s now. Not only has UT never been to a Final Four, they've been to one regional final in the history of their program. It's a lot of good basketball. It's also a lot of choking. We'll see what happens. That Purdue-Tennessee matchup in the Elite Eight will be fantastic because I think they're 2 terrific teams if it happens. But the storylines, I mean, one of those fan bases, whoever loses, I think just gives up on college basketball. They're just like, we're done. We're going to take up knitting. We're going to take up miniatures. We're going to get really into cheese. There's got to be a better hobby for us. We can't do this to ourselves on an annual basis in March anymore. It's over for us.
Every year, Kenny, we do what's called the list of losers. These are starting pitchers that we like to fade. Is there anyone that comes to mind this season that's like, you know what? If I were doing the list of losers, I would add this guy.
Well, I did just give out a spoiler there with 2 guys, really, Jose Quintana and Freddie Peralta. The thing about Jose Quintana is you look at his career numbers, and they're quite good. But for some reason, I've just made so much money fading this guy, especially in day games. Just not a very consistent or reliable pitcher. I mean, I guess you can expect him to be consistently mediocre. And then Freddie Peralta as well is a guy I'm going to fade on opening day, who I like fading because, again, I think he is incredibly overvalued. You look at Dylan Cease in San Diego. I like fading all my San Diego Padres. Michael King is a guy early in the season as a Yankee fan, someone who's watched a lot of Michael King. I love him. I do not think he's going to be able to handle a starter's workload with the injury history we've seen. Also, the San Diego Padres do not know pitching. They consistently produce people to put on this list. So I'm looking to fade Dylan Cease, Michael King, Freddie Peralta, and I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, honestly, the Yamamoto thing's kind of interesting because I don't know if you guys saw what Todd Frazier was saying about the shape of his fastball not working at this level, and then he got torched in his first start. I don't know if I'm going to have to see how he's getting priced, honestly, early in the season before I make a decision there of whether or not to react to that. But I would say those guys for right now, and I love Grayson Rodriguez and Bobby Miller.